Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. This is going to be a slightly different format. I'm going to be deviating a little bit from the standard review motif. Yesterday I spent my evening playing Necropolis on Twitch with a few broadcasters and friends who go by AP Gaming Real, Henley, and Eric Vulgaris. Now, it sounded pretty interesting considering it's a multiplayer game, and hanging out with three other online personalities, mercilessly berating each other and cracking jokes at both ourselves and each other's expense was a blast, and I look forward to doing it again. But we did notice several issues with the game, even in the multiplayer, and it made me wonder. Now, laying aside the fun that we had hanging out with each other, is Necropolis a good game, or was it us that made it good? So I decided to do what any good YouTuber would and take the opportunity to show you some of the game and talk about my experience and walk through a bit of analysis of the game. So without further ado, here's a look at Necropolis, a Diabolical Dungeon Delve. So Necropolis is a procedurally generated dungeon crawler with permadeath for 1 to 4 players, in which your characters battle through a procedurally generated dungeon for some form of god being's amusement to see just how far you can go. Now, through the course of the run, you can customize your gear to fit your playstyle by picking up gear from chests and fallen enemies. Also, on each level, you're given 3 side missions to complete to gain favor, which can then be used to purchase items, recipes, or codices? Books. You buy friggin' books. And these are the only way to carry forward skills from one run to the next, and everything else is lost as per the whole permadeath motif. Oh, it's also worth noting that your single-player character and your multiplayer characters are kept separate from each other, so codices, screw it, your retained upgrades are kept separate. Now, the gameplay feels very Dark Souls-esque, and although it's naturally not done nearly as well. Full of slowdowns, frame rate drops, and other glitches, this was by no means a flawless launch, which was a bit of a disappointment. Reason being, Necropolis was made by Harebrained Schemes, the same company that made the Shadowrun CRPG game series that I personally love to death, as have a great many other people. It's good to see Harebrained Schemes branching out and trying something new, but unfortunately Necropolis, I think, is left somewhat of a bit wanting. So let me explain what I mean real quick. Now, aside from the bugs, glitches, and random speed and frame rate drops, this is clearly a game that most people, including myself, would only enjoy playing in a group setting. And yes, that is very clearly the intended method of play, but in addition to that, the game has very little interesting going for it, and it makes several blunders along the way. Now, first off, the procedural generation for a dungeon crawl game, while always ensuring something different so it helps stave off boredom and keep the game fresh, has a downside as well. It sometimes leads to areas that are virtually impossible, and still others where you have large spans of nothing except hallway. Also, when you die, and you will, it takes an eternity to get back down to the point where you were before, because the procedural generation redoes the levels, forcing you to start the grind all over again. And I would much rather have some well-crafted handmade levels myself that are better balanced and can aid you in speeding through to get back to where you were when you die. Now, I know that procedural generation is all the rage right now and the latest fad in game level design, but it's by no means perfect, and it can and will lead to areas of impossibility. A handcrafted level design would prevent that from happening, and I think it would have better served a game like this. Now, in addition to that, the potions, weapons, armor, and secondary items all suffer from a severe lack of explanation. You hover over them to get some form of identification and knowledge to be gained from the item, and you're met with the name of it, but also some lame duck quote or saying that tells you nothing about the stats of the weapon. And I have to say, I've never been a fan of that kind of thing. It leaves you frustratingly trying to figure out what weapons to use while knowing absolutely nothing about them, which will invariably end up with you abandoning a decent weapon for one that's far inferior, just on the basis of it was found later in the game, and you really have no idea what that weapon's capable of because you've never used it before. Now, the stats of these weapons will eventually be quantified and posted on websites, walkthroughs, and wiki pages if they haven't already, which bothers me for more reasons than one as well. Now, first, it requires you to go outside the game to try and find information that the game should have included to begin with. And secondly, it artificially creates difficulty strictly due to a blatant omission that the game's developers should have included but didn't. Now, I could keep going on about the game for another hour or so easily, but most of it would be expounding upon the points that I've already gone over here, and I do my best to try and avoid wasting you guys' time. Now, my multiplayer experience with the game was fantastic. It really was. Getting berated and made fun of while berating and making fun of the others was a blast, and we did have moments of genuine teamwork that allowed us to pull off some truly impressive things that made us all feel like legitimate badasses. However, that actually had far less to do with the game than it did the people I was playing with. Now, removing that variable from the equation, it leaves us with a very mediocre and buggy game at launch that has several glaring faults. And all of this at a $30 launch price? Oh, I'm sorry, but I honestly feel that this game is worth probably only about half that. At $30 is just too much to make this game worthwhile, and it really pains me to say so, but it's true. You know, I'm a fan of Harebrained Schemes. I really am. Hell, they were retweeting our announcement that we were going to be streaming the game, and the very few interactions I've had with them in the past have all been awesome, but I can't allow that to color my decision on the game. At the end of the day, I still have to ask the same questions for every game that I review or do a first impressions on. Is this good for the consumer? If so, why? If not, why not? And then I have to quantify those decisions to myself, and try as I might, I just can't qualify a $30 price tag on the game. So there you have it. This has been Necropolis, a Diabolical Dungeon Delve. If you choose not to heed my warnings, you can find it on Steam for $30 or your original equivalent. Once again, I am SidAlpha, and I will see you next time. Hi there, boys and girls. Thanks for checking my video out. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit that like button and maybe even that subscribe button. Trust me, it works really good. Don't forget to share with your friends, and if you're interested in following me on Twitter and Facebook, the links for that are in the description down below. I also have a Patreon if you're interested in helping to support the growth of my channel, and the link for that is down below as well. And once again, thanks for watching and supporting my channel, guys. I really appreciate it.